Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You know the drill. This is Mostly Accurate, and I am your host, Monica, as always. And today's episode is really about one thing people doing absolutely unhinged things and then acting like it makes complete sense. Because in this episode, we've got a man who claims he teleported into a stolen BMW before crashing it at 130 miles per hour, a suburban mom who killed her friend with an axe and then walked free, and me just trying to survive motherhood, insurance claims, and a toddler who is actively rewriting the laws of the bathroom etiquette. So, whether it's a Florida man logic, Texas justice, or a toddler's anarchy, the theme is clear. Accountability is optional and chaos is thriving. So, we're talking about these stories that make you want to say, surely, no, no, but then immediately realize, oh, yes. Very much yes. So grab your coffee, hide your car keys, and if you're a church going suburban parent with some unresolved rage, this episode might feel a little bit personal. So let's just get into it. All right, folks, buckle up, literally, because today's story involves a real life plot twist that sounds like a deleted scene from Back to the Future 3, except someone nearly died and no one got a DeLorean. We are talking about a man who told deputies he teleported into a stolen BMW before crashing it at over 130 miles per hour. And that's just the start of this story. So let's break this down before your brain melts. We're just going to set it up nicely for you. We're going back to Florida again. They come to me, in my feed. So I'm not picking on Florida, I promise. But in this story in Ormond Beach, Florida, yes, the jurisdiction that basically carries the entire Florida Man brand on its back, a man was found beside a well crashed and flaming BMW convertible with blood on his face and everything. Now, most people might say something like, I borrowed it, or, my bad, or, it was an alien joyride. But no, this guy went straight to quantum mechanics and the Twilight Zone. When deputies ask how in the multiverse he ended up in the car, the man identified himself as a 36-year-old Calvin Curtis Johnson, reported that he had teleported into it. Yes, teleportation, not larceny, not borrowing without asking. Teleportation, you guys. Splendid, spectacular. I really love a good story. And this, he really like sprinkled some sparkles on what had really happened here, and he wasn't shy about repeating it. The deputy was like, where'd you get the car? And then Johnson was like, I teleported. The deputy's like, okay, yeah, because that makes sense. And Johnson's like, yes sir, I teleported. And at this point, even the deputies were probably like, are you filming a Disney pilot or something for some kind of movie? Like, what is happening? So this whole ordeal began when a man in the Bicentennial Park incorrectly left his BMW keys in the car's cup holder, a move that statistically only increases theft odds by, like, I don't know, 1,000%. So, a witness told investigators that the man who hopped into the unlocked BMW looked confused and, like, was literally asking strangers for a lighter. So, yeah, that's right. The guy who allegedly teleported into a BMW didn't even have a lighter for a cigarette. Honestly, if you're going to make up some interdimensional travel excuses, at least come up with some like basic social skills. Like, come on, dude. So, anyway, the crash. So, moments after his alleged like quantum intrusion, deputies say that the BMW was spotted like blazing down the highway at more than 130 miles an hour before crashing at an intersection of Old Dixie Highway and Platinum Oaks Boulevard. So, that's fast, you guys. Like, that's faster than I drive when I'm late for like brunch with the girls. You know what I mean? So either his teleportation came with like a lead foot mode, or Calvin's version of physics is like sponsored by like Nas energy drink. When deputies pulled him from the wreckage, which was already like in flames, like it was a really bad crash. Like, what did he say? He goes, "Oh my God, you saved me from the aliens." I'm sorry. He goes, "Oh my God, you saved me from the aliens." And yes, you guys, aliens. At this point, even the sheriff's office was like, "Sir, please identify yourself and what reality that you're living in." So after this whole ordeal and like the firefighters put out all the flames and the deputies got him like stabilized, Johnson was taken to the hospital and booked into the county jail basically. And now he's facing grand theft auto, driving while the license is suspended or revoked, and the usual charges when someone's out here being teleported into stolen cars and blaming extraterrestrials. Also, deputies had the nerve to remind everyone to lock their cars. I mean, they technically have a point. So let's just be clear here. No corroborated evidence suggests teleportation actually occurred in this situation. This was just like a man in a stolen crash car at a high speed and then offered a sci-fi explanation after the fact. There are some possibilities though, which include confusion or disorientation, psychological or a mental episode possibly. There could be a drug influence in this case. I don't really know. And classic Florida man logic, which defies all earthly reasoning. But one thing is certain, this will be like the stock footage people use whenever a timeline glitch happens, I swear. Okay, the end of that. All right, friends, welcome back. We are gonna switch it up quite a bit. So I know we had like a little bit of a funny first segment. We're changing it up. We're going into, I wouldn't say it's a cold case, but it's an old case. This is the story of Candy Montgomery. And like friends, before like we go any further, this could be a trigger warning episode. This story contains graphic violence, infidelity, postpartum, mental health struggles, and a church community that truly said thoughts and prayers should cover this. This is a rewatch that I'm doing. So I was just scrolling through Netflix and I saw that they brought over HBO's show Love and Death, which is based on Candy Montgomery. And Netflix themselves actually had a version starring Jessica Biel called Candy. So it's a rewatch, like I haven't seen it in a couple years because I'm pretty sure it came out in like 2022 or 23, something like that. I know that the shows came out like about the same time, but I rewatched it. I forgot it was like really good. And I really enjoyed the HBO version because it has Elizabeth Olsen in it and a lot of other really good actors. But I don't know. I feel like that one was really good. I feel like it went much deeper into like the mindset and everything. But so I'm going to kind of compare a little bit of the TV series with like the true events of like what actually happened. So if this isn't your emotional tax bracket today, feel free to skip ahead to our last segment because we're going to talk about Candy Montgomery, a woman who proved once and for all that beige can in fact be terrifying. And yes, if you're thinking, why do we have two TV series about this? Same. But America saw a white suburban mom with bangs committing murder and said, yes, run that back twice. Who is Candy Montgomery? So, Candy Montgomery was born Candace Wheeler in 1949. She grew up in Texas under like strict religious expectations, which is always how these stories start. She later disclosed childhood abuse, a fact that becomes extremely important during her trial and also raises the question of why no one intervened earlier, but that's just like a whole nother episode. So, let's just roll this back from the beginning. By the late 1970s, Candy is married to a man named Pat Montgomery. He is an electrical engineer, basically the human embodiment of a calculator. Pat is smart, he's book smart, like social awareness, maybe not so much in this case. But yes, Candy is a mother of two. She is an active churchgoer at Lucas United Methodist Church, and she was always just like well known to be helpful, friendly, and reliable. In other words, the kind of woman you trust with your kids and apparently your husband. Betty Gore is the victim in this case. She was a younger, quieter, and visibly struggling person. She had just given birth to her second child. She had very clear signs of postpartum depression, which is super hard, not talked about enough. And I can't imagine that in the 70s, this was even, something that people were taking very seriously, like, today. And she had a husband who was emotionally absent, and she had a growing suspicion that her marriage was rotting from the inside. And spoiler, she was not paranoid. She was just very perceptive. She was not wrong. So, enter Alan Gore, Betty's husband, a man so average, it's almost impressive. Alan Gore worked at Rockwell International and had the energy of a man who explains receipts. He was not seductive. He was not smooth. He was just simply there, kind of like Pat a little bit. I don't know what's up with these boring men in the 70s, but I get why the housewives tried to engage in extracurricular activities. So, according to court testimony, Candy and Alan didn't start an affair out of passion. They started it out of boredom. Yes, Candy, the friend of Betty, Alan, the husband of Betty, affair. Okay, now we're all caught up. But yes, boredom. That is why this whole thing started. They literally discuss whether they should have sex like it was like a committee meeting. They agreed on rules. So, no emotional attachment, no falling in love, no disturbing or disrupting each other's families, which is kind of adorable because I'm pretty sure they had a whole like Excel didn't exist back then, but I'm sure they had like this whole whiteboard and a spreadsheet with their list of boundaries for this very, very scheduled and organized affair. So, the affair timeline. Let's just get into what happened here. So, late 1978 through 1979, the affair begins. I believe, like in one of the documentaries, it said it was like around December. So, in 1979, Candy decides she's just like done, allegedly, because like Alan started pulling away. I'm thinking like Betty was dealing with a lot of issues and kind of pointing out that, he wasn't emotionally available for her. Alan just kind of wanted to work on his marriage. Yeah. So I wouldn't call that exactly noble, but whatever. Early 1980s, Betty becomes like increasingly suspicious, like super suspicious. And in June of 1980, Alan leaves town for a business trip to Minnesota. Alan would occasionally do this because of his job. He had to leave a lot, which is like part of the reason I think Betty's postpartum depression kind of lingered as long as it did, because she didn't have like the emotional support she needed. And she didn't have too many friends because I don't know, like it said she was just like quiet, but I just think that maybe she wasn't. I I mean, postpartum depression is tough. So I think she probably just kind of secluded herself to herself, not asking for help, all that, which is when like everything though went straight to hell. So Betty is home alone with her infant daughter. Candy offers to help by watching Betty's older child because nothing says a safe choice like letting your husband's affair partner babysit. Mind you, Betty doesn't know that, at this point they're having an affair. So let's fast forward to I would say night, but it was the day of the murder, June 13th, 1980, also known as when suburbia imploded. So Candy goes to Betty's house to return a swimsuit, to get a swimsuit, whatever the story is. A swimsuit, not a weapon, not a confrontational plan, just vibes and bad decisions that we did not know were going to escalate in the way that they did. From this point forward, everything we know comes from Candy's version because Betty Gore never is able to tell her story. Candy claims Betty confronted her about the affair. Betty became emotionally unstable. Betty retrieved an axe. Betty attacked first. Candy testified that Betty repeatedly told her to shh And somehow, and I need everyone to stay with me here, that word or that shushing triggered Candy's childhood abuse and trauma, causing her to disassociate. And look, trauma responses are real, 100% real. I think a lot of, at least millennials, are living in just everyday trauma responses, but here we are. And disassociation is real as well. But now we are entering the portion of the story where reasonable people start blinking slowly. Candy took control of the axe and struck Betty 41 times. 41. At some point, this stopped being self defense and became rage with stamina. I know we've talked about this before. We had the case of Ellen Greenberg in a previous episode, and it's just the amount of force it actually takes to stab somebody, or I guess just swing an axe in general. It's a lot. Like, it is not an easy task to stab somebody. So 41 times, just that's a lot. That's like a full on cardio workout. Not trying to be funny, but it's just like it takes a lot of energy. Medical examiners testified that several wounds were defensive. Many were inflicted after Betty was incapacitated, and the final blows were delivered with significant force. This was not fast. This was not chaotic. This was sustained. Like, I don't know, medical examiners, I'm just gonna go off on another tangent here. Medical examiners just mystify me. They're like the story, like they tell stories. They can see stories play out. I just find it very interesting. If you are a medical examiner listening to this, I would love to have an interview with you about just what you do on a daily basis because it just fascinates me completely. All right. And back to our story. After the murder, this is where everyone's jaw drops. So, after killing Betty Gore, Candy showered in her house, changed her clothes, dried her hair, and then just left the scene. She went home, picked up her kids, and made dinner. Like, nothing happened. Easy peasy. She did not call police. She did not check on the baby, who remained alone in the house for hours. She did not tell anyone. Which raises the question, if you truly believe you acted in self defense, why act like nothing happened? I don't know. Candy, why? Alan Gore later returned home after he found Betty's body after the neighbors reported hearing the baby crying. That baby survived. Betty Gore did not. So, if we're looking at the facts at what actually happened, I think this is where like I see a little bit of the differences in the actual events versus like the story events, because the one that I just recently watched was the HBO version, which is now on Netflix, the Love and Death one. Alan was away on his trip and it was the neighbors that actually found Betty, not Alan himself. But we'll just keep going. So, the trial and the defense that shocked everyone. Candy Montgomery was charged with murder. Her defense team presented psychiatric experts, childhood trauma documentation, and a diagnosis of dissociative reaction. They argued Candy's temporary loss of awareness and that she acted instinctively, not maliciously. The prosecution pointed out that, like the sheer number of wounds was like extremely intense. The calm behavior afterwards and the absence of immediate danger once Candy had the axe. And then like Texas did Texas things. So October 1980, Candy Montgomery was found not guilty after 3 hours of deliberation. 3 hours, you guys. Texas law required acquittal if jurors believed Candy thought her life was in danger, even if that belief was irrational. And apparently, 41 axe wounds passed the vibe check. I don't know what was going on in the 70s. Yeah. I got no comments on that. HBO versus Netflix versions. HBO version, Love and Death, Elizabeth Olsen plays Candy as emotionally flat, hollow, and unsettling. This version is quiet, cold, and psychologically accurate. I really liked this one. HBO leans heavily on the disassociation, the repression, and the religious guilt. And frankly, this Candy is the one that keeps you up at night. So the Netflix version, Candy, is what it's called, is Jessica Biel's Candy. She's cheerful, she's perky, she's smiling through everything, which somehow kind of makes it worse. So Netflix focuses more on like social dynamics, Betty's isolation, and the image of the perfect Christian woman. Less courtroom nuances and more like Dateline Sunday brunch edition. Neither show fully captures how furious people were about this verdict, but it is what it is. And the uncomfortable truth, Candy Montgomery, why she benefited from just being her. She benefited from being a white woman, being religious, being articulate, being a mother, being relatable. Her trauma was believed. She didn't look like an axe murderer, even though she was an axe murderer who was having an affair with the husband of the woman that she murdered. Her fear was centered, her violence was contextualized, and Betty Gore, she was just basically reduced to unstable, emotional, and eventually silent. Candy later moved away. She remarried and became a mental health counselor, you guys. Can't make this shit up. Which honestly is like the most 1980s ending imaginable. Like, if you think about it realistically, this case was never about an axe. It was about who believed who we protect, and who we excuse. Candy Montgomery walked free. Betty Gore was buried. And 40 years later, we're still asking the same question. If Candy didn't look like someone capable of violence, would anyone have believed her story? Because sometimes the most dangerous thing in the room is a woman that everyone trusts. All right, before we wrap this up, we need to do a mom check in, also known as the business of the week, because parenting is not a journey, it is a hostile takeover. Let's start with my car. Yeah, let's start with my car. Someone hit my car in a parking lot. Did they leave a note? Of course not, because we're all just living out here like, side quests don't have consequences. I just wanted some groceries and I came back to my door damaged. So that's super fun. So now I'm dealing with insurance calls, body shop estimates, and all that fun stuff. Nothing makes you feel more alive than rearranging your entire schedule so your car can sit in a shop and then think about what did it, And I'm pretty sure it was somebody else's car door. It could have been a shopping cart. I really don't know. But nothing screams happy holidays like paying for a deductible because of an accident that you did not cause, nor were you there to witness. So this whole process, it's just I'd say it's been a nightmare, but it's been like, I don't know. It's just been a nuisance. It's like we just need one more document, or actually we need like that document again. Like, did you call and make a claim with the police? Like, no, I'm not gonna call the police department when I don't have the other party. Nobody was injured, nobody was in the car, and nobody was there to see what happened. And it's a door ding. Like, I don't know. Insurance companies are weird. Different states are weird too with how they need things done. Long story short, Michigan was not one of them. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just over the whole thing. And the whole shitty part of it is that I need to get this fixed because they hit it so hard that it like scraped all the way down to the metal. And if I don't fix it, it's going to rust. And of course, it's going to rust because, again, the elements of Michigan have zero mercy on your car. So, yeah, that's been fun. I did get my car back, but then they left all the signals, or like they didn't reset the computer or whatever it is. So my dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. It's okay. Everything's fine. It will get taken care of. It's just like another like thing on the list of things, you have to do as an adult, and it is whatever. So now let's just quick pivot. My son, my beautiful child, my joy, my liability. He is swearing now. So that's so fun and so cute. And before the internet jumps at me, I truly do not think this is intentional. I think he's trying to say like something else and accidentally like landing on words that make other parents like clutch their pearls. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's trying to say bullshit. I think he was trying to say snowflake, but it just came out that way. He's learning his sounds and how to make his mouth move. Like, is it a real swear? Is it close enough that it actually counts? Is he just remixing language in real time? We really don't know. This is unclear. But there is nothing more humbling than being in public and hearing what sounds like a curse word and immediately becoming a PR manager for a toddler. Um, so it's been fun. Like, no, no, he's saying fork. He's saying fork. He loves cutlery, you guys. Meanwhile, my soul is just leaving my body when this is happening. It's just been super fun. He's so funny. And I promise, like, we watch our mouths as much as possible at home. At least try to. Like it'll slip out every once in a while, but what are you gonna do? And then finally, yes, we must address poop because I don't know, it's just our weekly segment is talking about poop. If you've been following along, you already know this has been an ongoing negotiation with the universe. Originally, we were pooping in the bathtub. Not ideal, but we adapted. We grew, we healed. But friends, he has now upgraded. Now he poops in the tub, gets out, and then poops in the living room, which means this is no longer an accident. This is intentional pacing. This is a two-act structure. This is performance art. At this point, I don't know. I don't even panic. I just stand there like, we've chosen pooping in the living room today. Like, this is what we're doing. Basically, what happened, the other week is he got out of the tub, he walked directly into the living room, and he's got this like little dinosaur sofa we bought him. He crouched naked. Like I'm telling you, this little butt just walking through my house, just giggling and laughing. And he finds his sofa and he crouched behind the sofa and just dropped a turd. Yep. Right in the living room. I questioned it. I asked him, did you just shit in the living room, buddy? And he did. He did. Dad thought it was funny. I did not so much, but I don't know. It was an easy cleanup. Luckily. Luckily, this time it was an easy cleanup. So I don't know. I'm just asking myself, like, what am I doing wrong? Is this just a phase? Who can say? All I know is my child looked at me dead in the eyes, confident, unbothered, like, yes, I did this and I will do it again. So if you're listening and feeling behind in life, if you forget a deadline, if you burned dinner, if your car is held together by just vibes, just remember somewhere out there, I'm negotiating with insurance, translating toddler profanity, and disinfecting my living room like I'm prepping for the CDC's to perform an inspection. And that, my friends, that is my business of the week. Get it? Business. Yep, we're alive, we're learning, and we're absolutely not okay. But we're still here, we're surviving, and, you know, we're still having a good time. All right, friends, that's where we're going to leave it for today. We have covered a lot: a stolen BMW that apparently unlocked teleportation mode, a murder case that proved if you look trustworthy enough, the justice system might just believe anything that you say, and a week in my life that included a hit and run, insurance purgatory, toddler profanity, and a poop saga that now has multiple locations. And if there's any one takeaway from today, it's this: no one knows what they're doing. Not Florida drivers, not Texas juries, not parents, not me. If you're listening to this feeling behind, overwhelmed, or questioning your sanity, congratulations. You're doing it all right. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed, leave a review, and share it with somebody who also needs reassurance that things could, in fact, be worse. As always, thank you for spending part of your day with me. I truly appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, follow, share this podcast with your friends, family, and whoever needs a good laugh or just a good pick me up. Until next time, lock your car, trust your instincts, and if your kid poops in the living room, you're not alone. I'll see you guys next episode. Okay, love you. Bye bye. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The facts are fuzzy. Our stories and opinions are just that, stories and opinions, not meant to be taken as professional advice.